Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. First off, huge congratulations to all of you on wrapping up that recent capstone build. You know, the Smart Wallets overview document you all compiled was just fantastic. It perfectly set the stage by focusing our attention exactly where risk and policy live within a wallet. So today, we're taking the next logical step in this explainer. We are moving beyond those single key wallets and stepping right into the highly secure, incredibly cooperative world of multi-sig architectures. Let's get into it.
To kick things off, I want you to just kind of ponder this one central question. What happens when you reassign ownership from a single key over to a strict set of rules? Because let's face it, if your entire digital identity, or, worse, an entire company's treasury relies on just one private key, well, losing that voting badge and the couch cushions isn't just a minor inconvenience, right? It's a catastrophic, full-on, panic-inducing event. We desperately need a better way to handle digital ownership.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with life beyond single keys, move into building our mental model with committee and charter, unpack the core components, trace the authorization flow, and then finally wrap up with our key takeaways.
Section 1. Beyond single keys and the limits of solo ownership. So in standard smart wallets, ownership fundamentally relies on just one single private key. It's a really simple, but honestly terrifying equation. One single key equals one massive single point of failure. If that key gets compromised, the game is literally over. But a multisig, which is short for multi-signature wallet, completely solves this. It does this by requiring multiple, totally independent approvals before any transaction actually executes. You're no longer putting all your trust in one fallible human. Instead, you are trusting predefined mathematical consensus. It's a real game changer.
Moving on to Section 2, Committee and Charter. Let's build out that mental model.
I always find it super helpful to ground these abstract Web3 concepts in the real world. So think of a multi-sig wallet as a governing committee that's managing a joint bank account. In the real world, a committee operates by a written charter, and the members use a physical stamp to approve a motion. Over in Web3, the committee members are your key holders. The charter, well, that's your multi-sig smart contract. The stamp is a cryptographic signature, and the motion is a proposed transaction. So basically, members use their unique cryptographic badges to stamp a motion strictly based on the unbreakable rules laid out in that smart contract charter. Makes sense, right?
Now, the absolute crux of all this is Quorum. Quorum is simply the threshold of signatures required by the charter to actually authorize a motion and legally change the state of the account. I really want you to internalize this concept because this specific rule acts as a bridge. It's the exact bridge between human, off-chain policy, meaning what we actually want to happen, and strict, on-chain enforcement, meaning what the code will mathematically allow to happen. Let's look at how tweaking that quorum drastically changes the wallet's behavior. On one hand, you might set up a 3 of 3 threshold. You can think of this as a super tight executive board. Decisions are incredibly fast, but the setup is completely brittle. I mean, if even one person loses their key, all those funds are permanently frozen. No way around it. Now, compare that to a larger 5 of 7 setup, which acts a lot more like a representative council. It easily tolerates a couple of absences or, say, hardware failures, but getting 5 people to coordinate and actually sign off, that takes way more operational overhead. There's always a trade-off here.
All right, Section 3, Core Components. Time to unpack the architecture.
Grasping these specific building blocks is absolutely crucial. It's going to give you a major advantage across all of Forge College's advanced courses. What's really interesting here is the interplay between the on-chain and off-chain environments. We've got the signer set, the threshold, the on-chain contract, and the off-chain coordination. And it's a pretty profound truth in Web3 that weak off-chain coordination can totally defeat incredibly sound on-chain enforcement. Think about it. If your secure messaging protocol is compromised, the best smart contract in the world is still going to gladly drain your funds if your legitimate members are tricked into signing malicious proposals. Let's quickly highlight the signer set. This is the canonical, definitive list of public keys or addresses that actually hold the authority to approve actions. And here's a kind of fun twist for you. Updating this membership, say to remove a lost key or maybe add a new team member, is often a governance action that requires a multisig transaction itself. Yeah, you literally have to use the multisig to update the multisig.
Section 4, Authorization Flow. Let's go from proposal to execution.
Let's trace how this lifecycle completely differs from single signature wallets. It all starts with Step 1, proposal creation. An initiator drafts a structured message containing the target address, the value, and a nonce to prevent replay attacks. From there, it moves into off-chain distribution, signature collection, on-chain verification, and finally, post-execution logging.
I want to zoom in on step 2 for a second, because this right here is where the human element is your absolute last line of defense. As a signer doing an off-chain review, you must check the intent. Is the destination address expected? Is the amount within limits? Does this mysteriously alter our membership? Listen, if your signers get lazy and just blindly click approve, the smart contract doesn't know any better. It will flawlessly execute a malicious instruction.
Once that review is done, we hit signature collection, which generally follows 2 main architectural patterns. First up, we have raw signatures, where every individual signature is submitted directly on-chain. This is a lot simpler, but it results in very high gas costs. Alternatively, we have threshold schemes. This is where partial signatures are mathematically combined off-chain into one single aggregated signature. Now, this drastically reduces gas costs, but it definitely introduces some off-chain cryptographic complexity.
Following collection, we reach step 4, on-chain verification. This is where the code takes over. An executor submits those collected signatures to the contract. And let me tell you, the smart contract acts as an absolutely ruthless bouncer. It strictly validates the signatures against the approved signer set, checks the nonces and any active time locks, and confirms that the quorum threshold has actually been met. Only if every single one of those conditions is perfectly satisfied does it go ahead and execute the transaction to update the state.
And finally, Section 5, key takeaways to wrap us up. Let's distill all these architectural lessons down into 3 key principles. First, quorum matters. You've got to constantly balance the availability of your team against the security of your assets. Second, separate your concerns. Rely on the on-chain contract for strict policy enforcement? Sure, but build robust off-chain audit trails to prevent reckless signing. And third, plan for evolution. Have a clear, heavily documented process for handling key loss before it even happens, because trust me, it's going to happen at some point.
Looking ahead, we're going to build directly on what we just mapped out today. Next up in your learning track is a truly fascinating lesson on security trade-offs in multisig wallets. We'll be taking these exact component boundaries we just sketched out and analyzing concrete, real-world attacks against them. It's going to be great.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought exercise for your next assignment. Think about everything we've just discussed and ask yourself, what threshold would you personally choose for a 3-person core team? And what specific off-chain safeguards would you implement to prevent accidental or malicious approvals? Really try to think through the messy realities of that scenario. To dive deeper into this subject and explore a whole wealth of other amazing Web3 topics, be sure to visit forge.college. Keep questioning, keep building, and I will see you in the next explainer.